Hey, what is happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And now that I've finally had a chance to get my hands on it, it's time that I talk about Death Stranding. Oh yes, the time is finally here. Death Stranding has released into the world, and I and many other people have finally had a chance to start playing this game. Now, as I discussed about the game a couple of days ago, the reviews went out about a week ago, and the reviews, of course, were very polarizing, which obviously most of us were going to expect just because of the nature of this game and because of the nature of Hideo Kojima himself. And, you know, true to form, that's exactly what happened once reviews started going out and people were really picking sides and saying, hey, I like all the positive reviews or I like all the negative reviews. This game looks really great. This game looks really terrible. Everyone has wrong opinions. I mean, the reaction was like really, really extreme. But now the game is finally something that we're actually playing, and it released yesterday as of the day of the recording of this video, Friday, November 8th, 2019. I've spent several hours with the game, and I have many opinions about it. And what's interesting is I feel like I'm kind of like bursting at the seams with opinions and thoughts about this game, both positive and negative, but at the same time, as excited as I am to kind of talk about these opinions, I don't really know how to talk about these opinions because this is a game that I don't quite know how to talk about, yet for some reason here I am with the microphone on in front of me trying to talk to you guys about it. It really boils down to that's just how Death Stranding is. That's kind of the nature of this weird-ass, crazy, confusing, quirky game. So I'm going to try to kind of talk to you guys about my opinions here. You know, here's the thing. At the end of the day, despite the confusion about my feelings and opinions, I am liking this game. I am taking more positive away than negative, more positive away than frustrating or confusing. And I think it's important for me to say that early on here on my impressions, because of this game and because of just how weird it is. There are things that are frustrating and things that I've been really annoyed by, and there are the elements of what makes this game, I think, boring to some people that I absolutely do see. And I would even be lying if I didn't say that there was some sections where I was like, am I bored here? I can't really tell. I think I'm kind of bored, but also I'm kind of still like interested enough to want to push on and see what's going to happen next and what this game is going to continue to ask me to do. And so that's where it's a really kind of muddled feeling within my own brain on how I'm resting on the positive or negative here. It's crazy. This game is crazy in the sense that it's just making me think about what I look for from a video game. I mean, it's really changing that. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. It's just a thing that I've observed. So really, the main conceit of this game is what a lot of people who have reviewed or played this game have been saying, and most people have been criticizing the game for this. The main conceit is you are kind of walking this wasteland that is now the United States of America. You are, of course, playing as Sam Porter, who is played by Norman Reedus, an actor who I love from The Walking Dead, and I love The Walking Dead, and I love Daryl, his character. You're playing as Sam, and you're walking America, which has been turned into this crazy wasteland because there was this, like, BT ghost attack thing that happened years ago, and it, like, destroyed the world, and there's not a lot of humanity left, and it's just, and there's, like, now these ghost things out there, and you have to just avoid them, and that's, like, what's happening. And it's important for you to, you know, you work for this company, Bridges, you sign up with them early on, hence you become Sam Porter Bridges, because that's the company you work for, and they are tasking you with kind of updating their network and bringing their network, which is scattered across the United States, back online, and also to take materials via missions or materials that you find out in the world and deliver them from Bridges Distribution Center to the next Bridges Distribution Center to the next one, all while also bringing these distribution centers online and connecting people across the country and I think across the world and who also work for Bridges. You're kind of connecting them by bringing them online. So that's kind of the part of the delivery of the idea that Kojima has talked about, where you're connecting humanity via these strands. The themes are really heavy in this game too, because Strand is also the last name of the president, who's also kind of the last name of other people I don't want to spoil much, but you get involved with. And so it's like the strands represent the things that connect people, and also that's the name of some people within the game, and then also because the strands are the things that connect you to the other world where the BTs are, which are the ghost enemies, and then that's also what connects you to the baby that connects you to those, and so those, I think, are also strands. It's out of this world, man. It is bananas, and I just am like, it's blowing my mind. But the thing is, when I try to focus back on what the main gameplay mechanic of this game is, the walking the wasteland of the United States and taking packages from one place to another, I can see why it's something that most gamers, or a lot of gamers and reviewers, might actually hate and find boring. And, I mean, I'm kind of on that same side as well, because there's not a lot to it. I mean, the gameplay is less about doing things, and it's more about managing things. And I know that that sounds horribly boring to a lot of people. And honestly, it probably should sound boring to a lot of people. It's all about how much weight can you carry, how can you listen to me, how can you distribute the weight that you're carrying. You're picking up packages. Are you holding it on your back? Are you holding it in your hands or attaching it to your hips or your shoulders? And where are you putting it? That distribution of weight as you're picking up packages and also like the ladders and the ropes and stuff that you're holding as well. How are you making those things work to your advantage, and how does he react as you walk throughout the world? That's like what the gameplay is, as well as keeping yourself upright, because as he walks and, you know, traverses through water or tries to climb over things or is walking over rocks, based on how the distribution of your weight is, based on what you're carrying, that can make it easier or harder to do, and you have to keep yourself from falling over, to keep yourself from damaging the stuff you're holding or the baby that you're holding as well. And so that's like, it's crazy. Talking about this is crazy. It's kind of making my head hurt, I'm not gonna lie. It might not even be entertaining to hear you guys, to have you guys listen to me talk about it, but that's what this game is. And sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's overwhelming, sometimes it is definitely frustrating and kind of boring. But I will say that for me, the element that I'm liking about this game that kind of makes me not care as much about that stuff is the fact that it does put you in a really cool ambient world. I like the world map, which of course is the United States, by the way. I like the way it looks. I like the way it sounds. I love the fact that it's a very dark, dreary, gray, rainy kind of thing. And of course, the rain plays a very integral role in the story as well. I kind of like the fact that it's a game where you just kind of exist in this really crazy world, and you have to walk and traverse through it and find the most efficient way to do it without draining your resources, and also avoid the BTs when those sections come up, and then it's kind of a stealth thing, and there's also human enemies to interact with. And like that part of the gameplay, which only is about half of the gameplay, is stuff that I'm very much enjoying. Now, I'll be honest with you though, I think that even this part that I'm enjoying is something that most other people won't enjoy. The reason it's kind of got its hooks in me, despite all of the frustration that comes along with it, is the fact that I happen to just be somebody who very much loves really big, expansive ambient environments in my gaming. Sometimes I can just experience that part of a game, and I'm completely satisfied. I think of when I'm playing Breath of the Wild, or Skyrim, or even like Horizon Zero Dawn, games that have these big open worlds, where there's a lot to just kind of do and see and walk around and experience. I sometimes like just wandering these environments and existing within them, because I don't even actually know why, you know? I mean, I'm just a person who gets something out of that. There's like an energy or an experience that it's giving you when you're doing that stuff that I enjoy and I really just love. I've been a huge fan of games that will show you like a big wide open vista and you can see way off into the distance whatever it is. I don't care if it's like a modern day city or a crazy fantastical land like a Breath of the Wild or a Skyrim. If I can see way off to that distance and I can envision myself trying to get there and I wonder what is it that's way, way, way out there that I can barely see, that stuff just gets me really giddy. Like it sends my nerd tingles kind of just like freaking out within myself, you know, like a spider sense kind of thing, and it just makes me really happy, and I love it. And with Death Stranding, when you're pretty much just walking out in the world, that's what this game feels like, and that's something that I really enjoy. The complaints about it being a walking simulator and a package delivery simulator, those are true things, but I think that you can kind of label that with this game as like a negative, or you could be stating it as a positive. And for me, it kind of straddles the line between negative and positive, which then makes me focus on just the fact that I like walking around the world, and then I veer more towards the positive. And then, to continue to veer towards the positive, the other huge aspect to this story, the other 50% to this game, is the story itself. And I do find the story very fascinating, very well delivered, and very interesting. Obviously, this game is extremely cinematic, and for most people, it would probably be too cinematic. And as I've discussed before, there was a period in my life where I was super down on the idea of cinematic games, and I thought that they were garbage, and I thought that anyone who liked them or got something out of them had really bad video game opinions and bad taste and all that different stuff, because that was me for a while. I hated the idea of this kind of stuff, but in my older years, over the past couple of years, I've kind of matured a little and wizened a little bit to what these games are doing when they're doing it. And I can see the value of a game that's overly cinematic when it's done a certain way. I think for me, when I kind of made that turn to appreciating games that can be cinematic is when in my brain, I learned to categorize them as just a genre of video game. The same way there's an action kind of game, there's an RPG, there's a fighter, there's a strategy RTS, and there's a cinematic game. You know, a game like an Until Dawn or a Last of Us or a Heavy Rain and a Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human. And I would also say Death Stranding. Games that are very heavily cinematic and trying to have you interact with a story in a different way than other games do, I think are becoming their own genre. The same way over the past 10 years, we saw the comic book movie become its own genre of movie. It previously really wasn't until the MCU really just changed that. And I think that was a good thing. And so now you could, if blockbusters existed today, which they don't, but let's pretend they did, I feel like you could almost walk into a blockbuster and just like you could walk past the comedy section, the romantic section, the action section, you could then walk to a comic book section of movies in a blockbuster. And I think that in video gaming, the cinematic experience, like what a Heavy Rain or a Detroit Become Human or a Death Stranding is becoming its own kind of genre. And since I can sort of categorize it that way in my brain, it means I'm open to it because I can say, hey, I'm feeling a cinematic kind of game now, and tomorrow I might be feeling an action game. And so based on what I'm feeling I want to do or experience, I can now accept what a game like Death Stranding is trying to do. And so bringing it back to Death Stranding, the story, which I kind of was already alluding to earlier in this video, is crazy and is insane and is perfectly Hideo Kojima, and I really like it, you guys. I really like what is going on here. It's a very confusing story to discuss, and also, if I discuss too much, I might accidentally spoil it, which I already almost did spoil something in the beginning of this video, so I don't want to risk doing that again. But I'll just say, for how crazy the story is, I really like it. Now, my negatives about the game, I'll kind of wrap this video up here and end with some of the stuff I'm not liking. I'll go back to the gameplay and what this game is asking you to do, and even though I talked about how I can kind of enjoy a lot of it, I will talk about the negatives. And you know, as much as I said I enjoy walking around this big world and just appreciating the atmosphere, I will also say there are times where the game does start to feel boring, the way some people and reviewers have said the game is boring. Because when you realize I have to walk from A to B, and maybe I've even already had to walk from A to B one time, but now I have to go back because I have to get this package from here to there, it's kind of like, man, I'm not really enthralled by the experience of having to do this again, because it can be really frustrating and aggravating to just try to make sure Sam is standing up properly as he's hopping over little rocks, or if you have to climb up a huge steep sort of cliff. It's very frustrating and it's not exciting, and it does have an element of boredom. I totally have to agree with that aspect. There are times where it feels boring. Also, when the BT sections come up, which are kind of like stealth sections, there are times where I've really enjoyed kind of having to do that, and I feel like I'm in the moment and I'm really worried about it. But there are also times where it feels like it's in the way, and it's like I'm already not enthralled by this package delivery gameplay section I'm doing, and now you have to throw in this slow stealth freakout section too because the BTs show up. It kind of just changes the whole rhythm and pace of the game, which is already pretty damn slow to begin with. So I do struggle with that. Also, oh my god, the worst thing in this game is the menus. The frickin' menus are a nightmare. The worst design decision I have ever seen in a video game ever. I'm standing by that. It is the worst thing. It took me forever to figure out what the hell the menus were asking me to do and telling me to do, and how I'm navigating them, how I'm accepting this, where I'm placing this package on my body, what the heck is going on. I mean, no joke, yesterday, the launch day, the first time I was trying to organize the distribution of inventory on my body. I couldn't figure out what I was doing, and I couldn't complete what it was asking me to do, and I couldn't figure out anything about it. It was such a mess. Not to mention when you're at the distribution centers and you're trying to like accept missions or deliver packages or receive packages from someone else, it's just a mess of shit all over the screen. There's so many words and diagrams and like just I don't know, guys. I'm honestly getting like angry just thinking about it again, and knowing that every time I play this game, when I want to just experience the world, I have to also deal with the inventory and the menus and the management systems. I start to have a panic attack over how messy it is. I am starting to figure it out, to be fair. So I've played enough that I'm starting to like kind of feel a little bit more comfortable with it. It is something that's improving as I play. But god damn, is it so cumbersome at first. They did not think this through. I don't know what Kojima was thinking with these menus. It's just way too much. And so anyway, I feel like I'm just all over the place on this video and this conversation, which I kind of alluded to at the beginning. This is a really weird and confusing game to talk about. I don't know how to talk about it because I both really like it and I also am really frustrated by it. I'm having a lot of fun and also bored and confused. I just don't know what to say. And so I'll just finish off with what I said at the beginning. Despite all of these weird, frustrating, and boring elements, I am also having fun and enjoying and invested in this game. So it is a give and take. It is not a breathtaking masterpiece, 5 hours in, to be fair. But it is a game that I'm enjoying, and I think it's important to say that. Like, I knew what I was getting into, so maybe I was just more prepared and ready for the whole like walking and package delivery stuff. I think that I kind of got it in my head what this was before I went into it, so I think that that's helping. But whether that's true or not, it kind of doesn't matter when all I can do is be honest with you guys and say that I'm enjoying it more than I'm not enjoying it. But it is not perfect and there are frustrating elements. So I don't know, man. Even talking about this game is giving me a headache, if that's a sign about anything. So I definitely need to wrap this up. Please discuss what you think below, if you've played the game or not, if you're loving it, if you're hating it, if you're never going to try it because you hate everything about it. Whatever you feel, man. Talk about this weird game, Death Stranding, below. And for now, this video is a wrap. That is it. So, thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.